Well, a little bit about myself. You already introduced me, but I have, as you said, some background in the innovation, and I was 17 years in Banco Santander, and I'm trying to leverage and all that knowledge to share this experience with you guys. So I divided the presentation in three different blocks. The first one is about innovation. Everybody talks about innovation, but the problem that I'm going to show you is that in times of crisis, innovation is even more important because it has even a bigger impact than in normal days. The second one, we would talk a little bit about corporate venture capital. Sometimes there are also some words that are a little bit confused, like between what's the difference between corporate venturing, corporate venture capital. So we will just get into what is corporate venture capital, what are the main advantages, and also what are the main pitfalls, or what are the main problems when you try to launch a corporate venture capital. And then at the end, we will present a new concept, would be how can we relaunch a corporate venture capital with a much lower investment than the usual ones, and also with much lower risk. And here, what I do basically is that I leverage on the model of core angels to develop a corporate venture capital form with different angels of the same industry under the know-how and also the model of core angels. That's basically what the presentation is about. Okay, so if we start, as I said at the beginning, innovation is very important, but now in the terms of crisis, many people will discuss whether we are in a crisis or not. I guess nowadays we're always in a crisis, after the COVID. Now we're trying to recover from the COVID, but there is some issues in the economic forecast. The truth is that the crises are very important moments, because as you can see there in some data from McKinsey, basically 74% of the companies exit equal or weaker than before the crisis. Just 9% of the companies get stronger, and 17% of the companies do not survive. So it's a very specific time to be concerned and to be sure, how we move forward. In terms of leadership, also with this report of McKinsey, you can see that basically almost half of the companies that started as leaders, they become followers, which means that leading company will stop having that role, almost half of them. And on the other side, 13% of the followers become leaders after a crisis. So again, crisis is a great moment to really leverage on our knowledge and our assets and sweat the assets to be able to leapfrog compared to our competitors. So it's a great time to see what we could do. If we talk about innovation, and then we take into account what happens in the big crisis in 2007, 2008. Basically, in this case, it's a BCG Boston Consulting Group that shares what were the return or the results of the top innovators versus the average companies. So if you can see there, they have a baseline of 100 in 2007, and they see what is the total shareholder return. As you know, that is the difference of the value of the shares, but also take into account the dividends. So basically, it is what is the shareholder return for the top innovators versus the average companies. And as you can see there, the first message it is that 5 years later, the average company is not even giving the same return they used to do before the crisis. So most of the companies do not recover in 5 years from the shareholders' perspective. If you think about the top 50 investors, of course, they outperform, and they have a much higher return, going from 100 to 120, which at the end of the day, it is a growth of like 4% each year of higher shareholder return if you compare the top 50 innovators versus the average companies. So in a crisis, we said before that it is very important what you do, and now we see here that if you're an innovator, you're going to exit much better from the crisis, and maybe you're going to be one of the few ones that maybe was a follower and now you are a leader. Okay, so that's why it's very important, innovation in times of crisis. Now the question would be like, well, what about my industry? Well, then what we do, basically, if we want, we could divide all industries into two different axes. One is, whether they are already being disrupted, or whether they are going to be disrupted in the future. And basically, we take into account this classification. We realize that almost over 50% of the companies of the industries right now, they are being disrupted, and they will be even more disrupted in the future. And you have companies there like transporting, like banking, investments, consumer, retail, and so on. There are other ones, like, for example, insurance, that they are not being really disrupted right now, but we see that they are going to be fully disrupted in the very near future. And there you have everything related to healthcare. As you can see, there's plenty of innovation right now, but the impact of innovation we are not seeing maybe today. We will see it in the future 3 or 5 years. On the other hand, you could have some industries that are really fully disrupted. Like telco, or like, marketing or computer software and so on, logistics. Maybe the expectation is that they will be fully disrupted right now. Maybe in the future, they will not be very high disruption. But then basically, 95% of all the industries are in one of these three buckets, which means that if you are in any of, if you are in one, there's just 1 out of 20 industries that maybe you don't have to worry much about this disruption. For the rest of them, you are really disrupted, and sooner or later, that's going to have an impact. So innovation is going to be very important in all the industries. Basically, that would be the message that I want to share with you, that no matter what industry you're working on, you're going to have to work on innovation, because your industry is being disrupted right now, or it will be disrupted in the short future. So then comes the question: how do we do this? Well, basically, as you know, most of the corporates, they want to have higher growth, new customers, new revenues, and new ideas, and they are not able to do that on their own. So basically, what they do is that they focus on the startups, what we call here venture-backed up companies, because they provide you with what is called open innovation. They give you new ways to build new revenues, new markets, new ideas, new talents, and so on. So basically, the direct idea is, for corporates, let's go and get some relationship with the startups. Let's see how we do this, what is called corporate venturing, mixing, getting relationships with the startups, and see if we could get all that knowledge, that innovation, the know-how, and also the new technology in order to be able to grow and also have a distinctive performance versus peers. So that is the idea, which makes a lot of sense. The problem is that these two animals are very different. The corporates are really focused on the EBITDA, on the quarterly earnings, on risk management, and they are also very worried about the delivery to the stakeholder in the short term, on the vendors that they have today. On the other side, the startups are more focused on developing new business model, providing like new technologies, a lot of growth, new markets, new hires, and they also worry about the future funding that they have. So they have different profiles, and they have also different goals. So the issue here is, how do we make these two different animals work together in order to have a significant growth? So this marriage sometimes is tough. It's tough because, as we have here, on the advantages and disadvantages of corporations versus startups, if we go, for example, for the corporations, well, as you know, they are small organizations. They have a lack of creativity. Their processes are very rigid and inflexible. The motivation of their staff is limited. They go pretty slow in general, and they are very averse to risk. And I would also add that they want very high returns on a very short term from anything that they do. And they have also established some goals and some return policies that are not, they don't fit with the startups. On the disadvantages for the startups, well, basically, they have a small team, they lack of resources, their budget is also very small. They don't have a lot of partnerships. Many startups are not well known. We could even say they have a little risk of reputation. They could have some reputational risk also for the corporation. and they have difficulties. They have problems in getting new markets and getting also access to a big base of customers. From the advantage perspective, well, the corporation, they have a great knowledge and access to the market. They have a big workforce, very, very high experience, high skilled people with a lot of resources. They have capital available. They have a wide network of partners all over the market, and also they have a good position. So, sometimes they could get other assets just because of the position they have in the market. On the startup side, they are a very agile company. They're able to have new ideas and make them flow, make them happen. People are willing to challenge what they are doing. They pivot whenever they think things are not right. Teams are very highly motivated, and they potentially they could go pretty rapid. And if you fall compared to the corporation that they are very risk averse, they are supposed to get up again and try again, and there is no problem with falling. So again, you here have two animals with different, not just skills, but also different culture. And as I said, there sometimes marriage between different ones requires time, requires investment, and efforts to know each other, to get the right knowledge, attitude, and also the right processes to work together. So that this is the challenge that we have in order to leverage on the startups to improve our growth or our performance for our stakeholders if we are a corporation. So this is a little intro about how important is innovation, how important it is in times of crisis, but how difficult it is also for corporates to leverage on the startups to come up with some results. Let's talk a little bit now about what is corporate venture capital and what is not, and what are the pros and cons, and what are the main challenges here too. The first thing it is that there are different vehicles, different ways different ways for corporates to work with the startups. We have divided that according to the time to impact, and also whether the company is involved a lot or not. So basically, we have the x-axis, where we have whether the vehicle is outside the corporation or is inside the corporation. As you know, the more externally to the corporation, sometimes also the higher the possibility of success, because corporations tend to stop new initiatives, and they're very, very difficult to obtain results sometimes if basically everything is done inside. If we go to the y-axis, there we have the time to impact. So there are some initiatives or some vehicles that they have this long time to impact. For example, entrepreneurship programs. Entrepreneurship programs, as you know, are like programs within the company where they promote or they facilitate the employees to come up with ideas, and then also make contests of the employees to develop those ideas. But at the end of the day, the employees have a very small dedication for these things. Maybe the ideas come out, but later, after the ideas come out, usually there is no budget assigned. They don't have specific skills for the development of these ideas. And if they do so, they have to start building this new business from the very beginning. So basically, that's why the time to impact is very, very long. On the other side, if we go to the top, you have strategic partnerships. So basically, that would be having strategic partnerships with scale-ups that are already mature. So basically, that will have a very direct impact and very short time to impact, because that would be just making a partnership with a scale-up. Okay. We also have here the accelerator and the incubators. They were I would say in fashion some years ago. Sometimes I'm very acid with these things, but I have not seen, or I've seen just very, very few exceptions where incubators really work for corporates. It is very important also that in all these different vehicles, you set up very clear what is the goal and the KPIs you're going to use, because basically the results you're going to expect from a strategic partnership is not the same goals you're going to expect from entrepreneurship program. For example, entrepreneurship program is going to help you for the innovation culture within the company, but do not really expect developing a new business on its own. Same thing happens with the incubators. Many of the time, corporates do not really get a financial return from them. But what they get is like knowledge about how the startup work. They have also some positioning in the market because they are working with the startups and so on. And sometimes you could find some startups that maybe have a specific functionality that could help current businesses, but at the end of the day, there is not really a relevant financial returns from that. With the accelerator, something similar. In the accelerator, different it is that the startup is more developed, and basically you help them to accelerate. But basically, startups, what they want in this stage is the corporate to share with them the customers, and that is not an easy thing to happen. Also, sometimes there is the integration of the startup with the architecture of the corporate and so on. Okay, another vehicle, another way of doing open innovation with the corporate. All these vehicles would be included in what is called corporate venturing. So corporate venturing includes these vehicles and all the different vehicles. They are like different tools for corporates to work with the startups. So there we have the venture builder, which at the end of the day is that there is an idea within the corporation. They know they cannot build it on their own, and then they outsource this with a venture builder that will develop the new business from the beginning, but outside the company. So we are not going to be limited by the processes, by the slow decisions, by the profiles that are in the company. So we build it outside, and theoretically, whenever it grows up, we integrate it into the corporation. The problem also here is that we have to start to build a company from the very beginning, and it takes a lot of time. So the time to impact is very, very long. Many times corporates are not that patient, and whenever they see a program like this that does not have a short-term or 2-3 years return, they get bored of waiting for financial returns, or they get nervous, and at the end of the day, sometimes they cancel these programs. So today we're here to talk about the corporate venture capital. And the corporate venture capital, basically what we're doing is that the corporation is investing a minority stake into the startup, which goes up to 20%. Depends on the stage of the investment. We're going to have a shorter or longer time to impact. As you all know, if you invest in seed or pre-seed, of course, the time to be is going to be much higher than if you invest in growth. The problem you have to invest in growth, it is that you need a lot of money to be able to make a fund in the growth stage, because valuations are much higher. And on the other hand, you may have a good relationship with these companies, but also the financial return usually is smaller because there is not so much growth between the growth stage and the final exit. So again, corporate venture capital, the time to impact is going to depend on the maturity of the stage of the different companies, where the startups, whether it's pre-seed, seed, pre-series, Series A, B, C, and whatever. Okay, but the good thing is that you leverage on companies that are already working. Companies that already have other customers, and because you have a minority stake, maybe you will be able for the company to grow because you provide them some customers, some business development, or whatever you provide them. But on the other side, you don't have any exclusivity, so they could also have other customers and also grow in different markets and different industries, and even within your same industry. So this is what we're going to be talking today about. If you want to go for a definition, basically, as I said before, the corporate venture capital is a direct participation of a corporation into a startup or a scale-up by acquiring shares of capital with an initial minority position, as I said, usually below 20%. It is almost exclusively directed towards new technologies. So we're talking here always new technologies or innovations with high potential growth. What corporations are looking for is to understand the market, to have some opportunities for growth, for financial returns, and also for strategic returns. Okay, so that's basically the goals that we have for corporate venture capital. Indeed, at the end of the day, we could make it a little bit more simple. With the corporate venture capital, you could get two types of strategic returns. One is to defend your current position. You have your core business today, so you want to invest in startups that bring you new functionalities, new products around your core business. If we think about the three horizons of McKinsey, that they have Horizon 1, which is defend your business, Horizon 2, develop new businesses, and Horizon 3, develop new markets or new things that you don't even know today. The number one here in this slide, it is using these startups to defend and improve the current business today. The second one is about discovering and commercializing new revenue streams. There could be new business models, could be new markets or new products besides the current core business. In general, my opinion it is that corporate venture capital should bet more on the growth side than just on the defense side. Maybe just for defending, maybe it would make more sense to have partnerships with the scale-ups that they have a product that are very they're proven today and they're very quick in terms of time to market. And then my personal opinion is that I would go for strategy number 2 to bet on a corporate venture capital. Well, the question is this really working? Well, on one side, we see that the corporates are betting on this vehicle a lot. If you can see there, like in 2010, it was just 11% of the total of the investment value of venture capital. In 2021, it was 21%, more than double. But you have to take into account that there has been a CAGR of 31%. So which means that every year the corporate venture capital in the world grew by 30%, which is absolutely amazing and incredible. Taking into account that venture capital grew by 22%, which is a lot. This 31% that we commented before, let them have right now. I think it's over like 20 different. According to different sources, it could really even reach up to 25% of the total venture capital investment. Some years ago, venture capitals thought that corporate venture capital were like tourists. They were called they call them tourist investors. It's like, well, you guys are not professional. You guys are, you don't have to raise money. You don't have to have great procedures. You don't have to have the best teams because you don't really need a great financial return. We are much better than you are. That's basically what it was in the market. That has changed significantly in the last, I would say, 5 years. Okay. The truth is that sometimes it is hard for corporate venture capital to get the best talent because of the compensation schemes. Sometimes are not the same one. As you know, in a venture capital, you have, as a GP, you have the carry, and most of the corporate venture capital, they don't have carry, but there are other ways of compensation. But in terms of professionalism, the corporate venture capital is really doing very good, and best corporate venture capitals are having a great performance as best venture capitals. So I don't think nowadays there should be a big difference between the very high professionals on the venture capital versus corporate venture capital. What are the reasons why people launch a corporate venture capital? Well, the first one is that they need to stay open to external innovation. There are plenty of things happening, and most of them, people in the corporation are in their day-to-day, and they are not open, and they are not aware of what is happening in the different markets, in the different technologies. So the main reason is to be open to external innovation. The second one, it is to create future opportunities. Could be, we'll see that later, of buying a company, but it could be more about identifying opportunities for your own business, as we were talking before, for your business, for the development of your company. We also want to bring some entrepreneurial culture into the company, and having a relationship with the startups, and bringing the way they work, and having also some work with them. It helps into the development of an entrepreneurial culture in the company. So that's also one of the reasons that why people launch a corporate venture capital. Also, as we said before, the startups and also the corporate venture capital teams, they usually have different profiles than the typical corporate profiles. So it really enrich and provides great human capital for the corporates, not just from the technology perspective, but also from the investment perspective. So it's very good to access to new human capital and talent. Also, creates a pipeline for mergers and acquisition. Many times you invest 20% or 10% or 5% of a company, and then very good how the company is doing. Maybe you are even in the board of the company, and there's a point where where you could recommend your group, your corporations, to buy a whole company. But one of the problems that we have, it is that when you tell a corporation to launch a corporate venture capital, they do not understand why you have to invest why you need to hold a small minority stake. Because most of the corporations, before they launch a CVC, they have an M&A department that they buy companies. They want to own the company. They want to have exclusivity and everything. That's the culture that they have. So it's hard to explain them and for them to know that it is better, instead of buying one company of, let's say, $10 million, dollars, it is better to have 20 companies, and maybe to have a 500K participation in 20 companies, because nobody know which company is really going to be successful. That way it helps you to also learn from 20 companies, maybe from 20 different technologies, 20 different markets, and then from there, once you grow, maybe later you will find an opportunity for M&A. Of course, you need to be informed and reinforce your strategic decisions. Your strategic plan has to be fed by the insights that is gathered by the corporate venture capital, because the corporate venture capital people are really very close to innovation, to different trends and so on. So it is very important to know how these innovation markets are doing, and how you need to fine tune your strategic plan. And at the end, there is also a great way to have financial returns and strategic returns from a very relevant competitive advantage and knowledge that you have on the market. So it would be a pity that you are a very relevant company in a specific market that you do not bet or invest into the new technologies and the new trends, because that's a great position that you could leverage on. So that's great. So everybody says, well, then everybody should launch a corporate venture capital. That's not easy. And one of the things that happen, it is that basically one third of the corporate venture capital becomes zombies, which means basically they do a couple of investments, and at the end of the day, maybe they change the person that was leading that in the organization, or maybe they didn't have the right talent, or maybe they didn't do the right investments, and basically one third, they become zombies. So we have 2/3, and out of them, of course, there will be some who will get good financial returns, good strategic returns, but others will not. So it's not an easy challenge to do. In fact, what are some of the problems or the limitations for a corporate venture capital? Well, the first one is that corporate venture capitals usually require a very high initial investment, and we're talking between 50 million euros or 100 million euros. Just for you to know, for example, Santander started with Santander InnoVentures, which was 150 million euros. Now in Spain, Mutua Madrileña, that they have already done some investments, they launched a new one with a bit smaller amount, which is 30 million euros. But still, that is like the minimum. The second problem that you have, it is that you need to have great professionals for this, and usually corporations are not the best ones to identify, attract, develop, and retain these people. As we say, they have different compensations than venture capital, but of course, it's very difficult that they will admit to have the same compensations that the managers of the corporations. And also, the problem that we are having also is that there is internal processes that at the end we are not competitive. Like sometimes even corporate venture capital lose at 5% of the deals they enter because the decision process is not right. So this is some of the problem. Sometimes the answer is outside. So what happens if you don't have the capability inside, and you could be sooner or later able to integrate the products or the services from the startups, because nowadays with all these APIs and so on, this is getting much easier. So basically the answer is let's build something outside and let's see if it works. And that's where we go to the last chapter. Our idea would be to make what we call low-cost corporate venture capital with two main elements. One element would be the external corporate venture capital management, which would be a team outside completely from a company. In this case, the same way that we have leaders in the in core angels. The idea would be to also launch a kind of like core angels fund where there will be general partners, there will be some staff, and also the support of core angels international. And this group, experienced group of people, they would take care of the fundraising, the investment committee leadership, the closing, the exits, the assessment of the opportunities, the deal flow, the portfolio management, and all the internal stuff. But then on the other side, we need a group of people that are the investor, but we don't want any investor. The idea would be to launch an industry specific corporate venture capital. Okay, so in the example that I have here, imagine, for example, that we get together with a couple of main players on the optical market. So we don't need just one investor to put all the money. That's one thing. So basically, maybe it's a leading company within an industry, and this company could also get together other providers, other customers within the same industry. So basically, once we get a bunch of investors from a specific industry, we those investors, which we are talking about companies, those companies will be like angel investors, and they will participate in the investment committee, and they will also participate in investing, and they will also participate, in different committees or in different tasks that is required. This way, we get two things. On one side, on the left side, we have people that are expert on managing a VC fund. VC fund with the philosophy of core angels, which means that all the investors could participate also in the decisions of the investment and also in the portfolio development. And on the other side, we have investor experts in a specific ecosystem. So basically, startups will like to be invested by this group because the group will have a specific knowledge and experience or positioning in this industry. In the example that we're talking, this Angels Optical would be this group that would be specialized in investing in startups in the optical industry and other industries around optical. That is the way we would do it. So we need this two part. This will be the only way that these companies that maybe or they are not like big corporations. What they do is that they get together. And they would be the first group specialized in investing in startups, specialized in innovation in their industry. So that's basically the way we do it. Just an example. For example, with a volume of 5 million investment, which is, as you see, much smaller than the 30 or the 50 or the 100 million investment that we talk for big corporations. With 5 million investment, we could have investments of like over 125K with over 25 companies, internationally investing, also leaving some money for follow-on, investing in something like seed or pre-series or so. So raising $5 million dollars or euros, just getting together some people from the same industry, we could launch this low-cost corporate venture capital with all the professional talent and profile of the financial investors, and on the other side with the top talent also and knowledge of a specific industry. So this is the concept that we want to bring and share with you here. Also, for you to know, it is that this model, as everybody knows, in core angels, they hire the participation of the investors, they hire the knowledge of the industry, and they hire the time invested in the due diligence of the companies. The higher will be also the financial returns, not just the strategic, but also the financial returns. So we could again build a small CVC with high financial returns and very interesting strategic returns for the different investors of the industry. So just to sum up, basically, this low-cost corporate venture capital could bring potential financial have a very much reduced cost compared with other alternatives. It will also let the different investor to access to co-investments. So if there is a specific company that they like, they could invest on directly. Also, it has some very relevant intangibles. It could be, like for example, in the terms of the optical, that's the example I share with you. Could be, for example, the first optical VC fund in the world or in Europe. So maybe they could have some very good positioning. They would have access to startups and the innovation ecosystem. They would also build, some experience in investing in, and also they will improve their professional development with the relationship with the startups, and new networking and brand position. From the risk side, because we're going to be able to diversify, having like 20 or 25 investments in different geographies, we're going to minimize this risk. The decisions are going to be taken by a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge in the financial sector and also in the specific industry. So we're going to leverage on these leaders, which at the end of the day will reduce the risk of the decision. Of course, they are of course, we're always investing in startups, so there's always some inherent risk investing in startups. And as you know, the time to generate financial returns will go from 5 to 10 years. As you know, VC funds are structural in 10 years, and takes like 2 to 3 years to do the first investments, 2 to 3 years later to do maybe the follow-on, and the returns will start from year 6 or 7 to year 10. So that's basically the idea that we have.